Today, we're going to figure out how and why your Windows PC gets bloated and severely slows down over time, and whether it's worth trying to clean and fix your Windows install, or if it's just time to reinstall the operating system. Finally, if you do reinstall Windows, how exactly should you do that? Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to Elevated Systems. I'm your host CJ. Do you have a Windows PC or laptop that was super fast and reliable when you got it, but now, a year or two later, is performing like pond water? Well, in modern PCs, absence the presence of a virus or malware, this is most likely due to a bloated Windows operating system. I'm going to show you the top 3 reasons why this happens and how to fix it. And I'm going to start by demonstrating some of the symptoms of a bloated Windows install, which is something I don't even have to simulate because my main workstation is suffering from these exact symptoms. It's not a slouch of a machine, and there are 0 hardware issues. However, it's been over 2 years since I initially installed Windows 10, and despite keeping the OS up to date with the latest version of 21H2 currently running, the system has some significant performance issues. Let's take a look. All right, let's start with something really simple like launching Google Chrome. And click, and 1001, 1002. So there we go. 6-7 seconds to get Google Chrome to launch. This isn't really unique to Google Chrome, so let's open up a file explorer. Eventually, okay, that took a little time to launch, but that's not what I want to show you. I want to open a compressed file, so let me go here to my drivers folder. And I have this driver package here, and let's take a look at opening it with WinRAR. And we're waiting and we're waiting and okay, and there it is. It finally decided to open, and that took upwards of like 10 seconds to do, which is a long time considering the computing power of my PC. I really shouldn't have to wait 10 seconds for an application to launch. But not all applications suffer. Let's launch Word. Instantaneous like you'd expect. Let's take a look at some possible reasons for this. The first can be not having enough system resources because they're being used by background processes. The first place we can see this is down here in the system tray. And here you can see I have quite a few applications running in the background. Now, for me, this is fine. I know what each one of these does, and I have plenty of system resources to run them without issue. However, if your system has limited resources and you have an excessive amount of background applications running, this will slow down your system. So to solve this, you can open up the task manager, and I'm just going to right click down here in the toolbar and launch the task manager. Now, if yours launches like this with not a lot of detail, you can just click down here for more details, and we're going to navigate to the startup tab. This is all the programs that Windows is instructed to launch every time you start Windows. If there are programs here that you don't want to launch at startup, you can select them and select disabled. You can see I have a lot on the list that are disabled. However, there are also programs such as NVIDIA Broadcast down here that aren't in the startup menu but do start automatically. These programs typically have a native startup setting that you can disable if you don't want them to launch when Windows starts. This, unfortunately, isn't a complete picture of what processes may be eating up system resources. To see the rest of the active processes on your system, go back to the task manager, click on processes, and here you can see the apps you currently have open and are using, and you can see all the background processes that are running on your system. And you can see I have a lot more things running in the background than what's in my tray or startup tab. And while some of these things are expected, for example, there are update and licensing services for Adobe programs. I use at least one Adobe app daily, so these are fine. However, I also see Bonjour services running here, and I very rarely connect an iPhone to my PC. So this, I don't need to be running by default. Now, if a process has a drop-down arrow, it means there's one or more service running. So you can right-click on the service and open services, and this will open another little dialog box here. Now I can find that Bonjour service, and if I right-click on that and open up my properties, I can see that it starts up automatically. I can just change this to manual, and I can stop running the service right now. Hit apply, and now this service will only start up when I need to use it. The warning here, however, is that some services will launch when their dependent program is launched. For example, if I connect an iPhone to my PC, iTunes will launch, which will initiate the Bonjour service to launch. However, in the case of the Adobe services, those in some cases won't initiate when, say, Photoshop is launched, leading the app to not start properly. So if you do have a process or service using a significant percentage of system resources, be sure to research it prior to making any changes. Now, there are some what I call intrusive apps like Amazon Music Helper. If you remember, I have this disabled in my startup tab. I even have the option deactivated in the app setting itself, yet it's still launched on startup. If you have apps like this, it's really your call if the benefit is worth the resources based on your system. I'm okay with the 0.6 megabytes of memory it's using. However, I see this process here using 24 megabytes of memory. I'm not 100% sure what it is, so a quick way to figure it out is I can right click it and I can open file location, and now I see, okay, this is the Asus Sonic Studio. Again, this is an application I just don't use, so I'm going to launch my add or remove programs. Okay, here it is. Under advanced options, I'm going to terminate the process and then uninstall it. I'm also going to do the same thing for its partner app here, terminate the process, uninstall it, and it's gone. Again, that's not a huge deal with 64 gigabytes of RAM. However, if you only have 8, those unused and unneeded processes add up. So I'm going to go through and do that for basically every application I have running here that I don't really need. Okay, now I have the system rebooted with every possible application and background process stopped. I went from over 100 background processes down to 70 here. Unfortunately for me, if I click, okay, that was a little faster, but still, that should be pretty much an instantaneous process. Now, even if I were to uninstall and reinstall Chrome, which through the magic of time lapse I just did, click, and again, waiting, and all right, and there we go. Again, it took forever. Now, forever is a relevant term, but based on my system specs, it's forever. So why is it still slow? Well, this is where we can really take a look at what it means to have a bloated Windows install, or more precisely, a bloated Windows registry. The Windows registry contains information that Windows continually references during operations, such as profiles for each user, the applications installed on the computer, and the types of documents that each can create, property sheets for folders and application icons, what hardware exists on the system, and the ports that are being used. So when I click the Chrome icon, Windows needs to look a bunch of info up about that application, where it resides, what state it opens in, what system resources it has access to. Windows needs a bunch of info to make the programs work like they should. Every time you install a program, a lot of info is written to the registry. Unfortunately, when you uninstall a program, not all of that info is deleted. And over time that adds up. Just know that it takes longer for Windows to find all the info it needs to properly start a program. So let me demonstrate. Earlier I uninstalled Sonic Studio, but if I search the registry for Sonic Studio, there it is. There's a bunch of references to Sonic Studio 3 and Sonic Radar, which I also uninstalled. Find next. There's more. Again, more info on Sonic Studio, even though I installed the program. Now I can keep going through, and there'll be quite a few references to Sonic Studio 3, an application I've already deleted from the system. So how do we fix it? Well, the right answer is we can't really. If you're unfamiliar with the system registry, just don't mess with it. It is possible to find and delete all the entries from an installed application, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can break your entire Windows install. There are also system cleaner applications that automatically clean your registry, and some of them do work to a degree. However, more and more of these applications are just tools to collect your user and system information for marketing use. So I recommending avoiding all the CCleaner type software. The only foolproof way to fix a bloated Windows install is to completely reinstall Windows. I know it sounds scary, but let me show you some ways to set up your system so occasionally reinstall Windows isn't that difficult. First, if you have just a single drive in your system and you have the ability to install a second drive, do it. One drive should be your designated drive for your operating system and installed applications, and the second drive for all your personal files and data. That way, if anything ever goes wrong with your C drive, your Windows gets corrupted, you don't lose your pics and documents and all your data. Let me show you a really easy way to move and store all your personal data on a secondary drive by default. So if I look at my documents folder where all my documents reside, and I click on properties and I go to location, you can see here that by default, my documents folder is not on the C drive. It's not on the same drive as my operating system. I have it on a secondary drive, which is an F drive. Let me show you how I do it. So if I go to my desktop folder and I click on properties, I go to my location, you can see that it is still on the C drive, the same drive as my Windows install. So I want to click move. I want to find that F drive, go down to the user. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder, call it desktop, and then select that folder. Now, when I hit apply, it's going to ask me if I want to move all my files from the old location on the C drive to the new location on the F drive. I say yes, and it'll automatically move those files there. And if I do this with all my default locations, and then when I reinstall Windows, I can just go back to the properties, change the location to that F drive, and all my files are there just like before I reinstalled Windows. There are a few other things you might need to do before you reinstall. For example, if you don't have your web browser synced to a particular account, you may want to back up any bookmarks you have saved. Also, if you have any registered software, you might need to unregister it before installing Windows. You can also back up any specific application data you might want to restore later. Again, for me, I want to back up my DaVinci Resolve database. I'll back it up to my documents folder, which again is located on the secondary drive, and back it up. Now, when I reinstall Windows and reinstall DaVinci Resolve, I can just import that database and everything will go back the way it was. Finally, to expedite things, I'm going to download the most current version of the system drivers and utilities I'll need prior to doing the reinstall, just in case. I've run into issues where I reinstall Windows and my LAN or Wi-Fi driver doesn't work and I can't get online to get the most current versions. It's rare, but it happens. This process is also ensuring all your drivers are up to date, so there's an added bonus. I mean, when's the last time you checked and updated your chipset driver? All right, now we're ready to reinstall Windows, but exactly how should you do it? My recommendation is a full reinstall from Installation Media. Download the Windows Media Creation tools, create a bootable installation USB, and do a full reinstall. Do not keep files and settings. If you need a step-by-step tutorial on this, I have one you can click here or in the description below. It's pretty simple and straightforward. There are methods of reinstalling Windows through the recovery menu. However, this is typically used if you need to maybe repair a corrupt Windows install. If you keep Windows settings in file, you're keeping the Windows registry as is, so you essentially fix nothing. So I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall Windows. Now, once Windows is successfully reinstalled, you can install all your drivers and utilities. I also pre-downloaded the software packages I needed, but I want to quickly show you one very powerful utility that makes installing your software quick and effortless: the Windows Package Manager. I'm going to reinstall most of the software needed right in the Windows terminal. No, this isn't Linux, and it's not scary. With a short command, I can install OBS Studio, Steam, Audacity. No need to find the website, download the installation files, unpack the files, launch the setup, none of that. Just Wingit, install, and it's done. If you guys want a full video tutorial on this feature, let me know down in the comments below. I can even show you my favorite command that lets you update every piece of software on your system with a single line. It's awesome. Anyway, let's see if this fixed anything. So I'll finish up by installing Chrome. Okay, it's installed. Let's launch it. And boom, instantaneous, as I would expect from any modern PC. But to confirm, let's just go ahead and see if we can unpack that driver package. Open with WinRAR, and I think we've done it. And that's it. Hopefully, if your PC was running slow, you were able to fix the problem by freeing up some system resources, by disabling startup programs, or uninstalling unneeded applications. If not, and you think it's time to reinstall Windows, that may seem like a lot of time and effort, having to reinstall your operating system from scratch and then having to reinstall all your software, but I guarantee that if your system was suffering the same as mine was, that hour or so you just spent doing this will be nothing compared to the productivity loss you experience over time from a bloated system. Again, if you have any questions, please ask in the comments below. If this was helpful, hitting that like would go a long way, and maybe consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe.